Scandal continues to surround Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. According to the Daily Beast, one of his more than 15 escorts not only attended a GOP fundraiser, reportedly turned her relationship with the congressman into a, quote, taxpayer-funded no-show job, earning between $7,000 and $17,000. So Democratic strategist Roger Fisk and congressional reporter for Axios, Elena Treen, they join us now to weigh in. Elena, I'll start with you. You cover Congress here. I think it's fascinating, given the distance that the Kevin McCarthy and much of congressional leadership has put towards Gaetz. It's no secret. A lot of those people can't even stand Gaetz in the first place. He himself now is embroiled in this controversy, but he's standing tall and actually is appearing at many political rallies, and I'm told is actually being pretty widely well received by much of the GOP base. What would it take in order to see some sort of distance formally put by congressional leadership and Matt Gaetz, given these types of stories which continue to dribble out just day after day after day?
I mean, it's a great point. The point you made was one I think we have to highlight, even, and Donald Trump himself, Matt Gaetz was very close to the former president, fierce defender of him. We're not seeing any statements in support of him. And that's kind of, across the line for a lot of top Republicans. No one's coming to his defense. And it's something a lot of people, people within the House, but also just GOP circles in general have been telling me, there's a reason you want to have allies in Congress, and Matt Gaetz doesn't have many of them right now. But we'll see. I think from what I've been told from my conversations with people close to leadership and just involved in kind of mapping out this response, they are waiting to see hard evidence. They don't want to get on one side of it just yet. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of silence, but not much more. I think that the trial today for his associate, Joel Greenberg, in Florida, could potentially lead to some revelations that could create that distance that you're talking about. But we'll see. Matt Gaetz is really taking the Donald Trump approach, which is, just deny, and not give in to a lot of these reports and just continue to stand strong, like you said. And so we'll see how this plays out with his former associate and whether Matt Gaetz faces, more of these accusations. And that's when we might start to see some real movement from leadership in the House.
Yeah, what do you think, Roger? Part of me thinks that unless he's formally indicted, he's not going to pay a single price for this politically.
Well, I mean, I'll go out on a limb and first off, extend to him probably a larger courtesy than he would extend to a Democratic member accused of the same things, which is to say these remain accusations. And It's important that we, keep that in mind as we discuss. So he's has a right to the presumption of innocence until things like this are proven. That said, the fact that he is a sitting member of Congress, that he is on TV 27 hours a day on Fox, taking the occasional breather, I guess, on Newsmax, and headlining these events all over the country and still has to allegedly pay for interactions with young women says something far more damning about the representative than I possibly can. And I never would have guessed that there was a seamy, tawdry underside to the MAGA movement, because I always viewed it as kind of a virtuous kind of morals-driven movement. So this is very surprising in a Trump context that something like this would come about. But he's got some major problems, right? And the fact that he can still go around and be lauded at things like this, he's essentially kind of filling like almost a General Flynn role, right? Which is he's turning around and saying, look at how persecuted I am. I'm just another person in this long line of people that they've thrown these hoaxes at, et cetera. But we'll see how this plays out. But I would not want to be in his situation right now because the trend line is not good.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, I think it's an important point there, Elena, to expand on, which is that the Trump has largely been silent. Gaetz reportedly asked him for a pardon. Trump has not come to his defense, although apparently he's been going, all over Palm Beach trying to get a meeting and more with the former president circles in order to try and move some of this forward. So it does seem like there's a lot of distance being put between MAGA world and Gaetz in case something does happen. Like you said, Mr. Greenberg now reportedly cooperating with authorities where a lot of this information is coming from. That really could be the problem, the biggest problem for him in the future.
100%. I think all eyes are on Orlando right now and how this trial plays out and whether his former ally will flip. That's the real thing here. And so we'll see. I think you're right. I mean, Trump world is very much doesn't want to get its hands dirty with this. If these allegations and accusations turn true, it's something that the former president is very aware of and doesn't want to get involved in. And he has a lot of people around him also advising him against getting involved as well. People like his son, Donald Trump Jr., Jason Miller, his senior advisor, all saying, this isn't the battle that you want to wade into right now. And so it's tough. I mean, again, we were seeing Matt Gaetz just come out on TV, trying to defend himself, denying every accusation that comes his way. It could get a lot dicier if his former associate does flip. And so that's going to be a turning point, I think, this trial and how it plays out, and whether Joel Greenberg does cooperate with the authorities and potentially give information about Congressman Gaetz. That could be the real turning point here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your analysis today.
Thank you.
Coming up, Zed Jelani is going to discuss how the media's coverage of the Palestinian-Israel conflict could potentially be a recipe for disaster. That's when Rising continues.